Hello, everybody. My name is J Kuper, and I am the co-founder of Brokerage Engine. Brokerage Engine is a back office software for residential real estate, and we have a mission. We're on a mission to help great brokers be even better through what we provide at Brokerage Engine. Today, we are going to be talking about running your brokerage, how to do that effectively and efficiently, but in particular, the hidden cost of running a brokerage on a spreadsheet. The brokerage not only have a brokerage company or have brokerage software company, but also have a brokerage company too. I'm a broker by trade. It's a multi-generational business, a family business, and started in 1972 for the brokerage. And we built Brokerage Engine eventually to really handle the complexities of running that brokerage day to day. And before we had Brokerage Engine, that saved us loads of time, loads of energy, helped our staff come together, our agents come together. We did a lot of the work to manage compensation plans, tracking marketing, that sort of thing, all using spreadsheets. I used to say that I loved Excel and I loved spreadsheets, even Google Docs and Google Sheets. I don't say that quite the same anymore. Ran into several problems using spreadsheets to do our operations. And so I want to talk about that today to see if any of that resonates with you, to see if we can't solve some of those problems that come with trying to operate your brokerage using spreadsheets. And as much as we love spreadsheets, spreadsheets are an amazing tool, especially for the finance and accounting world, doing modeling and doing complicated calculations. There's just not anything better than Microsoft Excel. Still love it for that. But when it comes to managing your day-to-day, managing comp plans, it's just not the right tool. I don't even think Microsoft would say it's the right tool for that. So let's jump into it. I'm going to give a few examples of the way we used to use spreadsheets and now the alternative and what we try to do and what we do with Brokerage Engine. So let me start with the big one, the one that we see a lot in Brokerage Engine, especially when clients are looking or prospective clients are looking to use Brokerage Engine software. And that's when a brokerage is using Excel or a spreadsheet tool to manage compensation plans. In particular, the splits that the payouts that agents are supposed to get based on their compensation plan. For most brokerages that we interact with day in and day out, they have multiple compensation plans and sometimes multiple structures. So some of the structures, for example, that we see are accumulation-based structures where the more you sell, the higher your split is. We see fee-based structures where you pay a certain fee up until a certain amount of time. And once that fee is reached or a company dollar amount or threshold is reached, agents can go to 100% or they change. I've seen plans and structures where it's time-based based on quarter, add a quarter, drop a quarter, do look backs for a year, all these different formats and structures to track someone's comp plan. But the most is when you've got a target. You're hitting a target of sales volume, gross commission income, company dollar, you name it, and those plans ratchet up. And then after a certain amount of time, they might ratchet down. And so we used to use spreadsheets for this day in and day out. Every agent was a tab. We'd put their split and their comp plan that we'd agreed to at the top. And then as transactions happen, we'd go to that spreadsheet, we would do the calculation, we'd add a transaction, and then we'd have a checks and balances system where somebody else on the team would check to make sure the calculations were being done correctly. We had fancy macros. We would lock the spreadsheets down to try to prevent error. And we were pretty pleased with ourselves. The spreadsheet was massive, had loads of data, and in our mind, it calculated commissions really well. But let me get into where this was problematic for us. The bigger that our company got, the more complicated this spreadsheet got. We'd have agents coming and going, even though we pride ourselves on retention. We might have agents that were retiring or agents that might be going to another brokerage, or we would inherit agents. And the bigger the spreadsheet got, the more complicated it got to operate that. So once we got over 30 plus agents, it just became pretty difficult. And now we have 350 agents. It was increasingly difficult, almost impossible, just by the sheer size of it. Accessing the spreadsheet to do was a laborious task and easy to make mistakes. So just by the sheer fact that we had so many moving parts, so many tabs, so many agents, it just became cumbersome. So that was problem number one. Problem number two is that it was very difficult to share this amongst multiple team members. So at the very beginning, when our head of accounting was the only one using the spreadsheet, it wasn't as big of a problem. They could have that on their computer. But if as soon as we needed multiple people in accounting to help do any kind of commission calculation, it became very hard to do that. Shared docs, shared spreadsheets, even in Office 365 that does a good job of making it so you can share live sheets or Google Docs or Google Sheets. Again, that makes it fairly easy to do that live sharing. It still became too complicated for multiple people to be in there and manage those documentations and manage those calculations. So just complicated when multiple people are involved. Third big problem we had is just the accuracy. So we created macros. We think we're pretty smart. We knew how to create a macro, knew how to do formulas really well. But commission schedules can be more and more complicated all the time when it comes to fees that get charged, when they get charged, when they don't get charged, when there's exceptions to those fees, all those sorts of things. So we found ourselves overpaying on a fairly frequent basis. Even though we didn't want to admit it, it was very easy to overpay. And sometimes you'd want to err on overpayment as opposed to underpayment so you didn't have an angry agent. And so because you couldn't trust the spreadsheet all the time because of some of these fringe situations or exceptions, which happened all the time, it just became increasingly unreliable to use the spreadsheet to do that. Or it took so much extra work to verify if the calculations were being done correctly. So that was another major problem that we had. One of the last problems we had, even though there was actually multiple kind of minor spin-offs of all these that I'm highlighting, but one of them was just the overall security component that comes with accessing a spreadsheet, storing it on a local drive, even storing it on a remote drive, like on a Google server or an Exchange server or just a Microsoft server for 365. It's who has access to that spreadsheet? Is it password protected? Who has access and controls there? And that became a major problem for us. Brokerage Engine came up kind of in the COVID era where work from home was very common. And so we built our system so that it could all be remotely accessible. So multiple team members can access everything with Brokerage Engine. So when we work through these problems, let's work backwards now. So Brokerage Engine is a web-based solution, and we wanted it to be that way because we wanted to be able to access it anytime, anywhere, and have multiple people be able to access the system and have direct inputs if they needed to, and or access controls. So we might have one person on the team who's responsible for doing payouts. They can't control how the payout works on the comp plan. They can just plug in gross commission income, and based on what's in the system, it will spit out all the relevant information: how much the agent gets paid, how much the brokerage keeps, any fees that need to get paid to anyone else, like referral fees, mentor fees, you name it. Even when there's hard-coded fees like a transaction fee, all those things can be built in. When it came to the complexities of compensation plans, I hate to admit it, I'd love to say that we had one comp plan and one comp plan only, but within our brokerage, we had sometimes dozens of comp plans that we had to work through and make sure we had all the nuances down and managing those, especially when we would acquire a brokerage or a brokerage would roll in with us and we'd partner up. They might come with their own set of comp plans. So we had to manage all these comp plans within the system. One of the great things that Brokerage Engine does is it manages all those compensation plans. You can't really trick the system. So you plug the compensation plan in. It tells the system how to calculate it, even if it's very complicated, and the system spits out accurate numbers for you every time. One of the great things about Brokerage Engine too is there sometimes can be cases where agents have multiple compensation plans just based on the brokerage they're in. For our own firm, for example, we might have a standard resale compensation plan. We might have a relocation compensation plan, a new developments compensation plan, you name it. One agent might have multiple. And so then you just simply select, hey, for J Kuper or for the agent in question, this is going to be a new development transaction and it gets paid out in this particular way for this particular agent. And there's no guessing. There's no recalculating or checking on a Post-it note or notes in a spreadsheet to do that. So all that's there and easy to find. And then last but not least is just the overall ability to see all the information all in one place. So when we had spreadsheets, we'd have to log in to the accounting software, open up spreadsheets, and then do that work in between a couple of windows. Brokerage Engine is an all-encompassing, all-in-one system for brokerage operations. And that includes commission schedule management and payout, transaction management. So you're doing everything it takes to get the transaction paid out, including document review and storage and compliance, but all the way into the accounting itself, all in one system. And so when you are in the system, you're working on paying out an agent, everything can happen all in one place. So you're not having to reference multiple windows all the time just to make sure you're paying things out properly. So even though, again, love a spreadsheet, love what it's capable of doing, especially when it comes to complicated financial modeling, when it comes to managing compensation plans, we think there's a much better way to do it. As a fun fact, and sometimes actually a difficult fact to digest, very often when we are bringing on a brokerage to Brokerage Engine and we're auditing compensation plans and how they were paid out, we'll find that compensation plans weren't always followed when it came to paying out an agent. And a lot of times that's by design. A broker made the decision to pay out an agent differently. But I've said this a bunch of times, I'll say it a bunch of times more. It's okay to lose money on a real estate agent if you choose to. You might have a top producer and you've made the decision that you're going to pay them out 100% split and you're going to eat the fees that you normally charge or whatever it is. And you're going to make less or no money on those agents. So I say it's okay to do that as long as you know you're doing it and as long as you know how much you're spending to do it. So within brokerage, well, actually, let me back up to our spreadsheets. In our spreadsheet, we could never really tell if we made a concession, that we made a concession number one. There might be some little notes we would take, but it's very hard to track those concessions that we might make or exceptions to the rule that we might make. So there's that trouble. And then the next trouble really is tracking all of them in one place. So if you have 30, 40, 50, 100 agents, 200 agents, 300 agents, do you have one report that'll tell you what all the concessions cost you in 1 year, in 1 quarter, in 1 month, in 1 week? Well, Brokerage Engine is built to do just that. So again, you might purposely say, we're going to make a concession. And again, that's totally fine. But do you have a place where you can do that? Brokerage Engine has robust on-demand reporting that management can run, ownership can run, head of finance can run. And one of my favorites, but sometimes also depressing, is the concession report, and it will tell you all of those concessions. So again, if you're using a spreadsheet, doing that day in and day out, it can be very difficult. So let's talk about a couple of other ways that people use spreadsheets and where they can be problematic. Most of the problems now will sound similar from one spreadsheet to another, but let's just talk about all these spreadsheets and where the problems can come. One spreadsheet that we had all the time was just the agent roster. On the agent roster, it had the agent's name, first name, last name, their birthday, their license number, the day they started with the company, so their anniversary day. We might also include their compensation plan in that spreadsheet too, even though it was tracked in a different book or workbook. We had that all in that master roster. And I think I said this already, but like license expiration date. So all those would be there in that agent tracking spreadsheet. The problem, again, similar to the problems we had with the commission schedule management in a spreadsheet, is who owned that spreadsheet? Where was it stored? How was it updated? Do you have any records of who updated it? So let's get into this unique feature of Brokerage Engine. Not only can an agent roster all be managed within this web-based system, but it attaches to all the records necessary. So for one agent, it attaches to, all their details, it attaches to their agent profile that's in Brokerage Engine, but also to their compensation plan, to all their listings, to all their transactions, because all of those are managed within Brokerage Engine, all in one place. So you have one repository for all those agent records, all in one place. Again, it's a web-based system, so anybody on staff can access it at any time. And then we also have the ability for agents to access Brokerage Engine. So they have their own unique login to where they can update their profile. They can store their bio, even store their credit card information that's in a secure location. There are headshots. Any of those things can all be stored in Brokerage Engine. So instead of managing those in a very limited spreadsheet, whether that's Excel or an online version like Google Sheets, you have this robust way to manage all that in Brokerage Engine, access that information at any time, report on that information at any time in this very specialized way. So an example of an agent roster report might be all the birthdays that are happening in the next 30 to 60 days, all the licensing that or the licenses that might be expiring in the next 30 days. We could sort of do that with the spreadsheets we used before, but now those reports can be created automatically. They can be viewed by managers. So a manager can log into Brokerage Engine, look at their office, see all their agents, see when their birthdays are, see when their licenses are expiring, see when their anniversary dates are, and then jump to other elements of their profile, all without having to go anywhere else or ask accounting for updated reports or access into a spreadsheet. Again, a similar problem with things being in a spreadsheet is just not the ability to access that information for all the stakeholders, all the people on the team. So that's agent roster and just managing through those. Another thing that we used to manage through spreadsheets almost exclusively were marketing opportunities. So we have a full service marketing department within our brokerage. They are amazing. They do loads of work for our agents on behalf of agents, making postcards, brochures, advertisements, social media posts, and all of that used to get managed within a spreadsheet that was stored on a shared drive. So we ran into problem after problem where those spreadsheets were so full of information, they would get corrupted, they would break. I experienced real tears from multiple people on our team when all the work they'd done to track all these projects was all for naught because the spreadsheet was corrupted or broken and or just not usable because of how the system wasn't managed properly or how the spreadsheet wasn't maintained properly. With Brokerage Engine, we have a full task management system built in to where you can track all the things that you might do for an agent. And that doesn't include just marketing and advertising. It could be yard sign installation. It could be copywriting where you're writing copy for open houses and listings and that sort of thing. All those are managed from within the system. Even into contract review and compliance, we have a whole contract review and compliance component built into Brokerage Engine. So you can see all the documents that need to be reviewed, review those all in one place, give feedback to agents where they can respond within the system or via email without having to create anything in a spreadsheet. We used to do all our doc review in a spreadsheet and try to figure out which files were ready to be paid, which ones were not, and we were juggling multiple systems. Again, this is all in one system in Brokerage Engine to manage these very important things. So let's look at that again from a holistic standpoint. Multiple spreadsheets can sometimes be used, and even the best brokerages across the US, from accounting and commission schedule management, basic accounting practices, rosters, and also task management functionality, all trying to make spreadsheets do really what they were not designed to do. If you're listening to this and you like to do a lot of financial modeling for your brokerage, doing projections, doing 10-year cash flow forecasts, well, number one, we have 10-year cash flow forecasts built into Brokerage Engine automatically. But I would say using a spreadsheet to do that makes total sense. But for everything else I've mentioned today, compensation plans, managing tasks, you name it, spreadsheets were just really never intended to do that. And so we built a world in Brokerage Engine that lets you quickly and easily access information, input information, but probably most importantly, get accurate calculations, accurate printout, and true depiction of what's supposed to happen within your brokerage. All that results in the ability to run accurate reporting, know where your brokerage is at any time, how you're delivering for your agents, and how you're delivering for staff. And one of the things that I like to promote quite a bit is Brokerage Engine is a tool that the brokerage staff deserves. So brokerage staff is trying to manage lots of processes, all of which I've covered today, but it can be very stressful to try to manage those processes without having the right setup. If you have the right software to support your team, you get great results and you get great happy team members who are all working so hard to support agents who in turn support clients. Nothing worse than when you've got a team that's frazzled because it's so hard to manage all the data, all the inputs, and all the things that need to be done. So if you are interested in Brokerage Engine, or if you're struggling with spreadsheets and you want to talk that through with our team members, we love to be available. You can check out our website, schedule a demo, check us out on social media. We've got all the links down below for you to do that, and we'd love to talk to you. Brokerage Engine as a team is built up of lots of people who have all been in the brokerage world for a long time. We have the privilege of working with some of the best brokerages in the US, And we've learned so many things as we've done that along the way. So we'd love to talk to you about your brokerage, your unique challenges, and see if we could be a great fit for you. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you on the next one.